Hello and welcome. This is Dr. Vibhakar Kumar and today we'll discuss revision for Fmge 23 high yield topics. So let's start. Here first question is membrane fluidity is increased by. So as we know the fluidity of membrane is maintained by lipid as per fluid mosaic model. So and lipid is responsible for fluidity and mosaic is for protein. So here which component of lipid is responsible for fluidity? Not all component of lipid. So we have different type of lipid. So actually unsaturated fatty acids are responsible for fluidity. So what are those unsaturated fatty acid? One is linoleic acid, linoleic and linolenic. Linoleic acid, then omega 3 fatty acid and arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid. These are responsible for increased fluidity because these are unsaturated or polyunsaturated fatty acid. PUFA. These are responsible for increased fluidity. So here, as per this, answer will be linoleic acid will be the answer here. But what about the other? Here fluidity is increased by unsaturated fatty acid. But which component of lipid decreased fluidity? So fluidity is increased by unsaturated fatty acid, as we know. Then fluidity is decreased by stearic acid and palmitic acid. Stearic acid here and palmitic acid. These two components are actually saturated fatty acid. Saturated fatty acid. These are responsible for reduction in fluidity. Then what about cholesterol? Cholesterol is other in option. So these two are not in option. These two are not answer. Answer will be linoleic acid, which increased fluidity because this is linoleic acid is a unsaturated fatty acid, and we know the unsaturated fatty acids are linoleic acid, omega 3 fatty acid, and arachidonic acid. These are responsible for increased fluidity. And cholesterol is known as fluidity buffer. Fluidity buffer. So any question will come related to this, we can answer. Cholesterol, just keep it in mind, cholesterol is fluidity buffer. Then unsaturated fatty acids are stearic acid and palmitic acid. These are responsible for decrease in fluidity. That's why this is not good for our health. And linoleic or linoleic acid, omega 3 fatty acid, and arachidonic acid, these are responsible for, or unsaturated fatty acids are responsible for increase in fluidity. So let's take a next question. Here question is interstitial fluid volume is best measured using combination of which two dyes? So here question is interstitial fluid volume is best measured using combination of two dyes. So for that we should understand. So our total body water is around 60% of body weight. Okay, fluid volume. Here we are going to measure fluid volume. So 60% of total body weight. Total body weight, 60% of total body weight is water. Okay, and we can say body weight into, or you can say body weight into 0.6, same thing, because if body weight is 60 kg and 60% of 60 kg will be 36 liter, or 60 into 0.6 will be 36 liter. So body weight into 0.6 is equal to, we can calculate, and this body fluid, total body water, is distributed into intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid, and out of this 2/3 is intracellular and 1/3 is extracellular fluid, and 2/3 is, we can say, 40% of total body water is intracellular fluid, 40%. So 60-40-20 is a rule, just keep it in mind. 60% of total body water is 60% of total body weight is water, fluid, total fluidism inside our body. 40% of total body water, I am talking about total body water, is actually inside the cell. So suppose 60 kg of body weight into, or we can say 0.4 into body weight, total body weight into 0.4. So suppose body weight is 60 kg, so 0.4 is the 24 liter is inside the cell ICF, or total body water will be 36 liter, and 20% is extracellular fluid. So 20%, or we can say body weight, 20% of total body water, total body weight is extracellular fluid. So we can also say total body weight into 0.2. So it will be around, if 60 kg body weight, then it will be 60 into 0.2 is equal to 12 liter. So 12 liter, like that. So this, as per this question, interstitial fluid. So as we know, we have different component. So suppose this is the blood vessel. Okay, so here plasma is there. Then we have interstitial fluid, and then there is a cell. Okay. So as per this, 2/3 of body water is inside the cell. 1/3 of body water is actually, this is extracellular fluid. 1/3 of body water is extracellular fluid, which is interstitial and plasma. So this is 1/3. And if we want to calculate interstitial fluid, here we have to calculate this space, fluid present in interstitial, not inside the cell and not inside the plasma or blood. So how we can calculate? Can we directly give any dye? Usually we use dye. Here two dyes. Which two dyes? So one dye is, with one dye it's not possible to calculate interstitial fluid volume, because we have to inject dye first in the plasma, and dye should go interstitial fluid, and then only we can calculate the interstitial fluid volume. So for that we should know different, how to calculate different component, because if we don't know how to calculate different uh, component, different part of fluid in present in different uh, compartment, then only we can calculate the fluid present in interstitial fluid volume. So for that, if we want to calculate total body water, this whole, inside the plasma, inside the interstitial fluid and cell. So if we inject a dye which is distributed, not, we inject in plasma, and dye will go to the interstitial fluid, and then dye will go to the easily in cell. So that dye we can use for to calculate total body water, and that dye is actually D2O and T2O, deuterium oxide and tritium oxide. So these two dye we use. So here we have option. So tritium oxide and D2O, these are the option, but this can't be our answer because these are for calculating total body water. This dye is freely, this dye can go freely to all compartment, easily distributed to all compartment. Okay, so for total body water, just keep in mind we can use D2O and T2O, tritium oxide and tritium oxide. Then extracellular fluid, ECF. So second dye we can use for ECF. So what are the different types of dye we can use for extracellular fluid? Where is the extracellular fluid? This is the plasma plus interstitial fluid is called extracellular fluid. So for extracellular we can keep SIMN. S for sucrose, I for inulin, M for mannitol, and N for sodium thiosulfate. So these are the dye we can use for to calculate extracellular fluid volume. Means if you inject any of these dye, this will easily go from plasma. We will inject here in the blood, or then it will go in the interstitial fluid, easily distribute in these two compartments. So, and third compartment is plasma. If you want to calculate plasma volume, then we have to inject the dye which cannot cross this membrane. This will remain in this plasma in blood vessels. So these dye are two dye. We can Evans blue and albumin, which is radio labeled. Radio labeled albumin. So now we know. So let me remove this. Yeah. So we know total body water. To calculate total body water, dye should go freely to all the compartment. Plasma means blood vessels, then interstitial fluid, and then inside the cell, all the compartment that go. And these dyes are D2O and T2O. These two dye we can use. Then to calculate extracellular fluid, which is plasma as well as interstitial fluid, these two compartments. So dye should go, if you inject the dye here, and then it should go here, not inside the cell. So these are the sucrose, inulin, mannitol, and sodium thiosulfate. This dye we can easily use. Okay. Sorry. So as we know, slide changed, but still let me discuss here, and then I will remove this. So as we know, total body water we can calculate. Total body water we can calculate with the dye D2O and T2O, D2O and T2O. Then extracellular fluid, which is actually plasma plus interstitial fluid. For that we can use Simon, S-I-M-N, Simon, sucrose, then inulin, then mannitol, then sodium thiosulfate. These are. And for plasma, which is inside the blood vessel, plasma we can use two dye, Evans blue, then second one is radio leveled albumin, radio leveled albumin. So albumin we can use. But here we can see plasma, then interstitial fluid, and then cell. So to calculate interstitial fluid, this fluid we have to extracellular fluid minus plasma. So ECF minus plasma is equal to interstitial fluid, because if we calculate this volume and we plasma volume is here, so if ECF minus plasma equal interstitial fluid. So for ECF we can use inulin, anyone, but here option is inulin, and then plasma we can use Evans blue dye. So this dye was in the option, so these two dye we can use, inulin for extracellular fluid and plasma Evans blue dye, and from ECF minus plasma then we will get the interstitial fluid volume. So now this is the next question. Okay, which curve describe the para amino heparic acid, PAH? Then okay, PAH profile. So here we should understand one thing. What is the curve? This is the Bowman's space, this is proximal tubule, this is distal tubule, and this is urine, and something is filtered here in Bowman's space. So for that we can draw a diagram like this. To understand this, we can draw a diagram, and suppose this is the afferent artery and efferent. So this is the afferent and this is the efferent. Blood is coming from here. So this is afferent artery and this is efferent artery. Here, whatever blood is coming here can filter except albumin and cells. RBC and albumin cannot filter. This will go here. But almost all the component will filter here. So whatever filter, that filtered load will reach in the Bowman's capsule. Okay, whatever substances, it may be sodium, glucose, amino acid, whatever, or anything if you give here, this will come. Now let's come back to the graph. So suppose a substance, suppose this is substance which is coming here, filtered here, from here, coming from blood, and this substance is freely filterable, freely filtered, and which reached here. So either substance directly go to the urine through all the part of nephron. This is a part of nephron. Suppose this is proximal tubule, then distal tubule, then collecting duct, and then finally it will come to the urine. So if we not neither reabsorb, if reabsorb, then concentration will reabsorption. Then concentration will decrease of this substance, concentration in urine will decrease. If secreted, if some substance is secreted extra, suppose this substance is So if a substance, suppose this is glomerulus, sorry, if a substance is freely filtered, afferent and efferent, something is coming and freely filtered, neither reabsorb, this is reabsorption and this is secretion. If substance is reabsorbed, then concentration will decrease, and if substance is secreted more, then concentration will increase. So reabsorption, then in urine substance concentration will decrease, and if secreted in the, then concentration will increase. So here we can see substance is filtered in the women's space. And first see the C line. What C curve says? There is no change. This is a straight line. What is secreted? This is coming to the urine. Same thing. Directly secreted and same number is coming to the urine. And that's it. And we know the inulin is fully filtered but neither reabsorbed nor secreted. So that substance is clearly inulin. First thing. Second thing. Let's see what is D. It's more than that. What is here is filtered, this is number is increased. It means clearly indicating that substance is something, some more is secreted. Secretion will be there. So concentration is increased. Concentration is increased. And we know the PAH, para amino hippuric acid, is secreted. And so concentration is increased. So this D curve is clearly with the para amino hippuric acid. Now let's A and B. So what may be A? We can see a proximal tubule. So in the proximal tubule, concentration is coming down, secreted, and then in proximal tubule, after proximal tubule, nothing left for the urine. It means all the, it is completely reabsorbed. So what are the substance which completely reabsorbed is either amino acid or glucose. This is completely reabsorbed in proximal tubule. So this is either glucose or amino acid. So let's search where is that. So identify the substance, respective substance in clearance, respective substance. So we know inulin is C, para amino hippuric acid is D, A must be glucose or amino acid. So let's see, it is glucose, amino acid. It is 100% reabsorbed in proximity. So here A is glucose or amino acid. So A is inulin. Obviously, this is not because C is inulin. A is pH. No, pH is D. So this is not going to be answer. A is glucose. Yes, A is glucose. B is bicarbonate. Okay, let's see the B. What is B? Around 80% is, see, this is 75-80% is reabsorbed and some amount of again going to the urine. So this is actually phosphate or bicarbonate. HCO3. These two are actually around 80% reabsorbed in PCT, proximal tubule. So here proximal tubule, it may be phosphate or bicarbonate. Let's see what is. So here answer is bicarbonate. So it is going to be bicarbonate. Then C is pH. C is not pH, C is inulin. So this answer is wrong. Let's see in the D. A is glucose, obviously glucose. It may be glucose or amino acid. So glucose is option. B is bicarbonate. Again B, PO4 or bicarbonate. So bicarbonate is in answer. So bicarbonate. C is inulin. Yes, C is inulin here. And D is PAH. Obviously D is PAH. So your answer here is identify the respective substance in the clearance graph. So this is the answer. So let's move to the next question. Here question is, on infusion of large volume of blood is infused, mean arterial pressure arises from here 100. So it means mean arterial pressure was 100 initially, yeah, 100 millimeter of Hg, to increase to 175 millimeter Hg. So it's increased to 175 millimeter of mercury due to baroreceptor. So we have baroreceptor feedback mechanism. Mean arterial pressure fall down to 125. So start with 100 normal, then it's reached to 175, then baroreceptor worked and mean arterial pressure fall down to 125. So it's reached to suppose 125. Okay, calculate the gain of the feedback system. So we know this is blood pressure is regulated by the negative feedback mechanism. So in details we'll discuss in the full video, but here just BP regulation is done by negative feedback mechanism. So one thing. So here we have to calculate the gain. Gain is equal to correction divided by error. So what is the correction? Correction is 175 because of the 100 by initial, it reached to 175. Then because of baroreceptor, correction is done with the baroreceptor reflex and it's reached to 125. So we can say 175 minus 125 or it's 50. Correction is 50 millimeter of mercury. Okay, and what error remains? So initially on normal baseline was 100 and still it's not reached to baseline, it's around 125. So error will be 25 millimeter. So 25 is the error. So gain, how to calculate gain is correction divided by error. So correction is 50 millimeter mercury because initially it was 100, pressure increased to 175, then baroreceptor is corrected but not normal level, it's up to 125. So correction from 175 to 125 is 50 millimeter mercury. So 50 is here correction, then error divided by error. So error, what is error? So after correction it's not reached to normal level, it's still 125 which is higher. So this is the error is 25 millimeter mercury. So correction divided by error, so it's 2, or we can give signal -2. -2 because this is working by negative feedback mechanism. So let's search our answer. So here answer is -2, not +2. It's not going to answer because this is the negative feedback mechanism, not 3 and not 2. So answer will be simple. So here first thing we should know, initially 100 was there, from 100 reached to 175. So reached to 175, this is the abnormal. Then baroreceptor or feedback mechanism through baroreceptor work negative feedback and it's reached to 125 millimeter mercury, means correction done 50 millimeter of mercury, not complete correction is done. So correction is 50 millimeter mercury and remains some error. So what error remains? So 100 was and it reached to 125 millimeter mercury and it should go up to the 100 millimeter mercury but still not reach to that level. So error remain 25 and so correction divided by error 50 divided by 25, so 2, or we can say -2 because this is worked based on negative feedback mechanism. So let's take next question. Okay. So here question is, a 40-year-old woman has resting heart rate 70 beats per minute, arterial pressure 130 divided by 85 millimeter of mercury, and normal body temperature. When does the first heart sound occurs in the ventricular pressure volume relationship? So here question is only we should Just keep in mind, this is our question. Where is the first heart sound appear? And this is the pressure volume relationship. So here we can say left ventricular volume in ml. So here we can say 0, then 50 ml, then 100 ml, then 150 ml, and this 200. So it's reached to 150 ml. It means just before ventricular contraction and ventricular systole, volume is highest. So this is the ventricular contraction. Ventricular contraction. Here 50 ml actually remains after blood is pumped already to the aorta. That is the end systolic volume. 50 ml is actually end systolic volume. And after that, because ventricular go under diastole, blood will fill more and more. So blood volume is increased, where up to 150 ml. So this is the called end diastolic volume. End diastolic volume. So end diastolic volume is 150 ml, which where ventricle is completely filled with blood and ready for pump blood. So now ventricle will start contraction or ventricular systole will start. So what happens? Pressure is very much low in the ventricle, very low, because before that atrium and ventricle were atrium and ventricular is connected, because valve atrioventricular valve was open and blood is coming from atrium to ventricle, and that's why filling is going on. So this filling, and this is last phase of filling where atrium contracts and some amount of blood is filled in the ventricle, and after that when atrium will go under relaxation and ventricle start contraction or ventricular systole will start. So ventricular systole when start, then ventricle will start contracting and pressure will increase. So here almost 0, or you can say 10-20 millimeter mercury pressure was there, and then pressure suddenly increasing. So this pressure is increased, start increasing. So when pressure of in ventricle will start increasing, blood will try to go in the atrium back. So in that case, atrioventricular valve will close, and that close will be here isovolumetric contraction. This is no change in the volume. Volume will remain 150 ml here. Volume, there is no change in the volume at this point of time when ventricle is start contracting, because pressure in the ventricle is very less. Pressure is increasing. So suppose pressure is increasing and this is a 50 millimeter mercury. So at this level 50 and this level 80. And in this case, pressure is 130 and 85 millimeter mercury. So means minimum pressure is 85 millimeter mercury. And when ventricle is contract and blood will go to the aorta when pressure will more than this 85 millimeter mercury in this case, then only atria valve will open and then blood will from ventricle to go to the atrium. Suppose this is the our heart 4 chamber. So this is the left ventricle, right ventricle, left atrium, right atrium, and here suppose this is the aorta. So this valve will only open when pressure will increase that. So ventricle will start contracting, isovolumetric contraction, and will so when pressure here increase more than 85, as diastolic pressure is 85 millimeter, then this valve will open and blood will come out from the ventricle to aorta. But here question is when first heart sound will appear. First heart sound. The first heart sound we know the appear when atrioventricular valve closes. And when atrioventricular valve will close, when pressure of ventricle will increase atrial pressure. So initially atrioventricular valve was open, and then blood was filled from atrium to ventricle, and volume increased from 50 to 100 and 150. At this point of time, ventricle will start contracting, and once ventricle will start contracting, ventricular pressure is exceed the atrial pressure, because atrial pressure is not very much low, around maximum 10-20 millimeter mercury. And as we know, after this, at this point of time, ventricle will undergo diastole after last rapid filling phase of atrium. When atrium contract and blood will filled here, last some amount of blood will fill in the ventricle. After that, atrium will go under relaxation and pressure in atrium will be 0. So when ventricle will contract, initially it will exceed the ventricular atrial pressure, and at that point of time atrioventricular valve will close, and that will actually produce first heart sound. This is the first heart sound. So point B will be the answer as first heart sound. So let's discuss further where second heart sound will appear. So after that, pressure will increase, but there is no ejection of blood. Why? Because aortic pressure is already more than that. So it's around here 85 millimeter mercury, because minimum pressure is 85 millimeter mercury, and because of Windkessel effect, this pressure remains in aorta, some amount of minimum pressure remains. So that we'll discuss in the uh, lecture video. But here just understand this 85 millimeter pressure in the aorta, so it must exceed the 85 millimeter mercury. So here suppose this is 85 millimeter mercury, and then it's exceed, suppose 86, more than 85. In that point of time, ventricle um, aortic, this valve will open and blood will come from ventricle to the aorta, and blood will pass, and ventricular will still contracting, and pressure is still increasing in the ventricle. And obviously if ventricle pressure is increasing and this valve is open, then aortic pressure will also increase and blood pressure will increase. So that this will reach to up to 130 millimeter of mercury in this case. So and then ejection is going on and volume is decreasing. So in 150, so 100 here and then 50 here. So after that, all the volume from 150 to 50 blood is reached. So it's 150 was to 50. So it's 70 milliliter. 70 ml is a stroke volume. 70 ml blood is ejected, and after that ventricle will undergo relaxation, that is called diastole. So when ventricle will go under diastole, ventricle pressure will, yes, decrease, and when ventricle pressure will decrease less than 130 millimeter of mercury, because at this point of time aorta and ventricle both pressure was 130 at this point of time, 130 millimeter mercury. Then ventricle will undergo relaxation, then ventricular pressure will decrease, and once ventricular pressure will decrease, blood will try to come from aorta to the ventricle, and that point of time aortic, this valve will close because of the backflow of the blood, and then second heart sound will appear. This is second heart sound. So clear, this is the ventricular, this point is systole, and this is actually diastole. So different phase of diastole, ventricular, and here point B is the first heart sound and point D is the second heart sound. That clear? And other heart sound, third, fourth, we'll discuss in other class. So let's move to the so your question is, a 50-year-old overweight male patient estimated GFR is 150 ml. So here GFR is 150 ml per minute. Okay, then ml per minute. His plasma glucose level is 400 milligram per deciliter. So plasma glucose is 400 milligram per deciliter. It means we can also say 400 milligram per deciliter means per 100 ml. So per ml we can say 4 milligram per ml. Same thing, 400 milligram per deciliter or per 100 ml. So in 100 plasma glucose is in 100 400 milligram in 100 ml of plasma, and it means 4 milligram in 1 ml of plasma. Clear? So GFR is 150 ml per minute, 1 minute, and then plasma glucose is 4 milligram per ml. Same thing. His renal transport maximum for glucose shown in the figure. So renal transport maximum. So transport maximum here is 300 milligram per minute. So transport maximum is Tmax is 300 milligram per minute. Clear? So let's see what is the question. Figure. What would be the approximate rate of urinary glucose excretion for this patient? Means urine. How much glucose will come in the urine? Rate. That was asking. So we have GFR 150 ml per minute, plasma glucose level 4 milligram per ml, then transport maximum is 300 milligram per minute. So let's see, draw a diagram here. So this is the women's capsule and this is nephron, and blood is coming here and going. So this is the blood. This suppose afferent and this is efferent. So blood is coming and plasma is coming. Plasma glucose will filter. How much glucose will filter? Plasma filter. GFR is 150 ml. 150 ml per minute. So 150 ml per minute plasma is filtered, and as we know 4 milligram glucose in plasma, this plasma glucose is 4 milligram per ml. So in 1 ml glucose is 4 milligram, and we know 150 ml glucose plasma is filtered per minute. So how much glucose total filtered in 1 minute? So 150 into 4 per ml 4 milligram, so is equal to 600 milligram glucose per minute. It's minute. Okay, so per minute 600 milligram glucose will be loaded here. So glucose loaded will be 600 milligram per minute. 1 minute glucose will come 600 milligram. Okay, and next thing is transport maximum. What is transport maximum here? Transport maximum is 300 milligram per minute, means reabsorption. So out of 600 milligram glucose, 300 milligram will be 300 milligram will be reabsorbed. Per minute. So per minute 300 milligram will be reabsorbed. So what will left here? So out of 600 milligram per minute, 1 minute 600 milligram glucose will be filtered here. Then 300 milligram will be reabsorbed. The what will left here? So left will be 300 milligram per minute. So answer is 300 milligram per minute. Clear? Like let's again. GFR is 150 ml per minute, means filtration. Plasma will be filtered 150 ml plasma will filter 1 minute. 1 minute 150 ml of plasma will filter here, reach here. Okay. And we know in this plasma, per ml plasma we have 4 milligram of per ml. Per ml plasma we have 4 milligram of glucose, 4 milligram, and filtration is 150 ml. So 150 ml plasma will filter, and that carry 4 milligram of glucose per ml of plasma. So 150 into 4. So total glucose will filter in 1 minute is 600 milligram. So 600 milligram glucose will be filtered here. Out of that 600 milligram, 300 milligram will be reabsorbed. Okay, and then left with the as transport maximum is here is 300 milligram, and then left glucose will be 300 milligram per minute. So answer will be 300 milligram per minute. Clear? Let's move to the next question. Okay, so here question is, which of the following membrane has highest protein content per gram tissue? So the protein content per gram tissue. Normally protein and lipid content is almost 1:1. So same amount of protein. So protein is, suppose protein, and what is the highest protein content, and lipid is to 1:1. So is equal to 1:1. Which of the following membrane has the highest protein content per gram of tissue? So per gram of tissue, protein content is normally 1:1 ratio, 1 gram protein, 1 gram. But in case of myelin, as we know, myelin is the lipid will be more. So myelin lipid, in case of myelin sheath, it will be 0.23 gram of protein is to 1.23 out of 1 gram protein, and lipid will be protein will be 0.23 gram and lipid will be 1 gram. So lipid will be more in case of myelin sheath. And here we are asking highest protein content. So this is not going to be the answer. Other mitochondrial membrane is also not the answer. But inner mitochondrial membrane has the highest protein content. Here protein content is 3.2 inner, not outer. So just keep inner mitochondria 3:2 is gram protein out of, and then 1 gram of lipid. So 3.2 milligram of protein. So ratio is 3.2:1 here. So this is the highest protein per gram tissue, 3:2, 3.2. This is highest. So inner mitochondrial membrane. So next question, here compliance curve. Here we can see this curve is the compliance curve. Okay, and curve A signify which of the following disease. So this is the compliance. Simple. Compliance means volume per degree change in pressure change. So it means if you are changing the pressure, how much volume will change. So normal lung, here we can see this transpulmonary pressure. Pressure change means transpulmonary pressure. So suppose transpulmonary pressure is 0 here. Here 10 centimeter of water. This is centimeter water. 20 centimeter water, 30 centimeter water, and 40 centimeter water. So suppose this is 10 centimeter water. Just plot the okay. So we can plot like this. Suppose this 20, just plot like this. Okay. So here we can see one thing. So in normal, this is the normal total lung capacity. So normal 10 centimeter of water, 10 centimeter of water pressure, transpulmonary pressure. In that case, volume will be around 2.5 or 3, 2.5, around 2.5 liter. And 20 centimeter of water, volume will be around 3.5 or 4 liter, 3.8 or 4 liter. At the same time, in this graph B, the 20 centimeter water pressure, the volume will be only 1.2, around 1.2 liter, which volume is very less. So compliance is change in the volume with change divided by change in the pressure. So if pressure change is very much high, but volume change is very much less here. So compliance is very less because lung is not elastic, not compliant. Lung, you cannot stretch the lung very easily. It's very tough to stretch. And the here curve graph A, lung is highly compliant. Only 10 centimeter of water change in the pressure volume is changed more than 4.5 liter. It's around 5 liter. So lung is easily inflatable. You can inflate this lung very easily. So let's see in which disease and which condition. You can say this is the normal graph. As we can see, this graph is normal. And in which graph? Here question is curve A. Curve A means highly compliant. Compliance is increased. Which condition you will get increased compliant? Okay. So first, pulmonary fibrosis. What happens? Pulmonary fibrosis. Lung is fibrosed, lung tissue is fibrosed, or elastic tissue is fibrosed. In that case, it's very difficult to expand. Lung will remain contracted, and it's very difficult. So you need more and more pressure to inflate the lung. So this graph, actually graph B, is showing fibrosis. This is because of fibrosis. This is the fibrous lung where compliance is decreased. Other conditions like tuberculosis, asbestosis, like pneumoconiosis, silicosis. In this condition, their compliance is actually decreased. And where second option is emphysema. Emphysema, what happens in emphysema? Compliance is increased. Lung is easily inflatable. Why? Because of the decreased number of soft elastic tissue. So elastic tissue means what? So number of elastic tissue. This is suppose rubber. So if rubber is thick, elastic tissue is more. Rubber, if you pull rubber, it's very hard to inflate. This is very tough. But if you decrease, suppose this is a hard. If you increase the elastic tissue, then it's very hard to inflate the lung. If you decrease the elastic tissue, obviously it will be easily inflatable. This is like that. So elastic tissue is decreased in some disease. Where? Emphysema. Emphysema, whatever. This is the condition in which lung uh, elastic tissue is in decrease, and in that case, lung is highly compliant. Compliance is increased, and also old age also compliance is increased, and because of that, lung is very you can easily inflate the lung with less amount of pressure. You need less pressure to inflate the lung. So here, as for this graph, the curve A is actually emphysema, and this is not a good condition in which the residual volume actually increases the lung, and all the graph will go upper level. This function will be residual volume will be very much high in that case, and total lung capacity will increase and chest will be barrel shaped. So that part we'll discuss later. So here answer will be only emphysema. So 45-year-old man inhale as much as air possible. So this graph is not complete. So let's complete this graph. This is the expression graph and this is the inspiration graph. So as much as air possible. So this up to 1. He started from 1. Why? Because lung is not completely empty. Always some amount of air remains in the lung. That is called residual volume. So this is, he start from here. After maximum expression, he start from here, suppose, and he filled his lung completely till this level. So his maximum volume achieved 5.5 liter. So 5.5 liter. After that, he expired with maximum effort until no more air could be expired. So he start expiring. So this is expression curve. Okay. So initially rate of expression was very high. So 400 liter per minute expression, and then gradually, and air is expiring, and gradually volume is reducing. But same time, the rate of flow out is also decreasing, and then this 5 liter, then remain air in the lung 4 liter, then 3 liter, then 2 liter, and then 1 liter, and after that he cannot expire more, as this is the residual volume in this case. So residual volume you cannot expire after that. So here question is, no more air could be expired. So he reached up to this level, and that is the actually residual volume. This axon records his expiratory flow volume curve shown in the figure. What is the force vital capacity of this man? Force vital capacity. So force vital capacity is nothing but the same thing. You expire as much as you can and then expire it forcefully as much as you can. And that expression is, this is minus from 5.5 to 1 liter minus 1 because this is the residual volume. So 4.5 liter. So this volume is actually your force vital capacity. How to record force vital capacity? Ask the subject to take as much as you can, maximum possible, and then expire as much as you can. And this is expiratory graph recorded here, and he reached up to 1 liter. So force vital capacity from 5.5 to 1 liter is 5.5 minus 1. 1 is 1 liter is actually remain inside the lung after maximum effort, and that is called residual volume. So 5.5 minus 1 is equal to 4.5 liter. So 4.5 liter here in the force vital capacity. So here answer will be this one, 4.5 liter. Clear? Okay. Now, which of the following cell signaling is shown in the following picture? Okay. So here following cell signaling shown in the picture. Cell signaling. Okay. So you have different autocrine means what? First option is autocrine. Here something is showing, one cell is here, and another cell, another cell, another cell. So you working. So let's first option is autocrine. So this is the cell releases some hormone here, or and that will act on the same cell with other receptor. So receptor is here, other side, and this is acting on the same cell. That is called autocrine. Self acting on the same cell, but at different location. Different means receptor, on the different receptor. So is released from something here, and that will go and act on the same cell. That is called autocrine. So this is not the autocrine, obviously. So this is not going to be answer here. Then paracrine. So what is paracrine? Paracrine is act on nearby cell. So cell is here, release something here, and this will act on the nearby cell receptor. So this is the nearby cell, act on the nearby cell. So this is going to be the answer. This is the paracrine because this is going to act on the nearby cell. So release something here and going interstitial fluid. This is interstitial fluid, not going to the blood. These are the cell, nearby cell, and between cell we know the interstitial fluid present between the cells, and this release in the interstitial fluid, and then through interstitial fluid act on the nearby cell. So that is the paracrine. An example is somatostatin. Somato. So paracrine example is somatostatin. So what is the autocrine? So platelet activating factor. Oh, sorry, platelet activating factor is the example for autocrine. Okay. Platelet activation factor. And for paracrine, somatostatin. Then what is juxtacrine? Let's see. Answer is your paracrine because this shows paracrine signaling. What is juxtacrine? So one cell is here, and this is another cell, and that directly cell is communicating with each other. So that is called juxtacrine. This cell is directly communicating with other cell. One cell is directly communicating with other cell with the receptor. So that is called juxtacrine. Example is TGF alpha. Then endocrine. So most of the hormone act through endocrine hormone. So first thing, endocrine cell, this release some substance, travels through the blood vessel. So this substance will travel through the blood and act on the distance, other tissue, other area, that is called endocrine. Most of the hormones work through this any, almost all. So autocrine, autocrine, same cell, one cell release something and act on the same cell, that is called autocrine. Paracrine, cell release something here and through interstitial fluid act on the nearby cell, that is called paracrine. Example is somatostatin. Then juxtacrine means directly cell communicating with the nearby cell or directly. So this is the communicating, this cell is communicating nearby cell directly, that is called juxtacrine. And TGF alpha is the example. And then endocrine, most of the hormones through this release hormones, then travel through blood and act on the distance tissue. Which physiological adaptation does not happen at high altitude? The question is, which physiological adaptation does not? So your question is not happen. Let's see what happens to high altitude. So when you go to the high altitude, so first thing is decrease partial pressure of oxygen, obviously. So decrease partial pressure of oxygen obviously leads to hypoxia. So partial pressure of oxygen will decrease, then it leads to hypoxia. Hypoxia. Hypoxia, what happens? Hyperventilation. Obviously, if hypoxia will be there, in response to hypoxia, decrease oxygen and carbon dioxide will increase. In that case, because oxygen is decreased, tissue will not getting enough oxygen. So in that case, they will utilize more and more oxygen and carbon dioxide will be more. So hypoxia will be there, and then this response to hypoxia, there will be hyper ventilation. So what initially, so first thing will be, so first response will be decrease partial pressure of oxygen lead to hypoxia, and hypoxia lead to hyperventilation, and then decrease carbon dioxide. Obviously decrease, if you hyperventilate more and more, number of ventilation will increase. So obviously carbon dioxide will wash out. So decrease carbon dioxide actually, and we know the carbon dioxide is acidic in nature. So carbon dioxide will be decrease. It means because of the carbon dioxide, H plus ion also decrease. H plus ion will decrease because carbon CO2 plus H2O, then H2CO3, and then that actually dissociate into hydrogen and carbon H2O, hydrogen plus bicarbonate. So hydrogen ion number concentration will decrease. It will lead to acidity or alkalosis. So alkalosis. So first thing is alkalosis, and this alkalosis is because of what? Respiratory cause, because of high altitude hyperventilation, and this hyperventilation lead to alkalosis, that is called respiratory. So respiratory alkalosis, you can say alkalosis, respiratory alkalosis. Alkalosis will be there, and because of that respiratory alkalosis, what will happen? Alkalosis will be there, and compensatory mechanism. Who will compensate this? Kidney will compensate. How? Kidney will do H plus retention. So I am talking about the kidney. H plus retention, and bicarbonate is excretion, is CO2 excretion. So in urine, in that case hyperventilation, urine will be alkaline, alkaline urine. If question will come, if what will be the urine, or what if in case of hyperventilation, you will get alkaline urine, acidic urine. So urine will be alkaline, but in high altitude or hyperventilation, same thing, hyperventilation will also lead to alkaline urine, and high altitude also alkaline urine, same thing because of hyperventilation. And here acidosis or alkalosis will develop. So alkalosis will be developed in blood, alkalosis will be developed, that is the respiratory alkalosis because of hyperventilation, and urine will be opposite. Urine also alkaline urine, urine will be alkaline, and respiratory alkalosis, because acid is come, and because of that kidney will work here to retention of the hydrogen ion, and that will actually compensatory mechanism that will actually neutralize hydrogen ion will be retention, more and more hydrogen ion concentration will be, hydrogen will be reabsorbed, and so hydrogen concentration will gradually increase, and because of bicarbonate will be excreted. So that is the compensatory mechanism. But here basic thing is respiratory alkalosis will develop, and this is the compensatory mechanism, and this is the condition of the urine in case of high altitude. So here question is not this, what is the other changes we can say. So obviously because of high altitude uh, hypoxia will be there, so hypoxia will be there, the simple thing. Polycythemia, obviously because high altitude will go, the polycythemia will be there because erythropoietin will be excreted, erythropoietin. So erythropoietin number will increase, secretion will increase from peritubular capillaries of the kidney. So peritubular capillaries, the kidney will increase production of erythropoietin, which actually lead to production of increased RBC production. So that is polycythemia. So polycythemia will be there, hypoxia will be there. What about pulmonary vasoconstriction? Usually this is the right answer, actually pulmonary vasoconstriction, high altitude, because hypoxia will actually cause, hypoxia actually cause vasodilation in other vessels, but exception is there, pulmonary vessels, where hypoxia do pulmonary vasoconstriction. So and then respiratory acidosis. So respiratory acidosis or alkalosis. So answer will be respiratory. This is not going to happen. Respiratory acidosis, because what is going to alkalosis? Respiratory alkalosis is going to happen. So this is going to be your answer. So pulmonary vasoconstriction will not be there. Okay, pulmonary vasoconstriction will also be there because other vessels vasodilation will be there, and here pulmonary vasoconstriction will be there because hypoxia will be there, polycythemia will be there, but not respiratory acidosis, but respiratory alkalosis. So not happen. So this is not going to be happen, and this is going to be your answer.